Welcome to the Pipeline 2014 conference, and welcome to the PDMA booth. I'm Brad Barbera, Editor-in-Chief of PDMA's Visions magazine. Our focus in the PDMA booth this year is a culture of innovation. You may be wondering, why worry about culture when it comes to innovation? After all, many organizations with many corporate cultures have been able to successfully innovate. You may have heard the saying, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast," a remark attributed to Peter Drucker and popularized by Mark Fields at Ford Motor Company. And the evidence says it's true. No matter how brilliant an innovation strategy may be, its chances of success are minimal if not supported by an organization's culture. The problem is that culture is difficult to manage. It's hard to even define. So what is this thing called culture? Basically, culture is the shared values, beliefs, assumptions, and symbols of a group, whether that group forms a nation, a social group, a company, or a team. As one of the world's leading cultural researchers, Geert Hofstede, put it, culture is the collective programming of the mind. Although culture can be difficult to measure, there is a tool that can help classify a culture in a way that can help manage innovation efforts. It's called the Competing Values Framework. It's useful for its simplicity and proven correlation to innovation outcomes. It consists of two axes that express competing values. One dimension displays internal focus versus external focus. The other dimension displays preference for flexibility versus preference for control. The two intersecting axes form four quadrants that define four categories of organizational culture. A culture that is high on control and high on external focus is called rational. A culture that is high on control and high on internal focus is called hierarchical. A culture that is high on flexibility and high on internal focus is called group. And finally, a culture that is high on flexibility and high on external focus is called developmental. It's important to note that no cultural category is inherently better or worse than any other. The positive or negative impact of culture can only be assessed when evaluated against particular objectives. In this case, we want to look at the impact of culture on the organization's ability to innovate. Research published last year in PDMA's Journal of Product Innovation Management has shown that culture does indeed have a powerful impact on innovation outcomes. Developmental culture has the most significant impact on an organization's innovation orientation. Rational and group cultures both contribute to successful innovation, but to a significantly smaller degree than do developmental cultures. Hierarchical cultures actually demonstrate a negative impact on an organization's ability to innovate. If you are sailing toward innovation, then having a developmental culture will be like having the wind at your back. Having a hierarchical culture is like sailing against the wind. It can be done, but it's a lot of hard work for slow, incremental progress. Further evidence of a culture's impact on innovation comes from the most recent Comparative Performance Assessment Study, or CPAS, conducted by the PDMA Foundation in 2012. The CPAS research covers over 450 companies from all parts of the world and a variety of industries, and separates those that perform best at innovation based on several process and financial metrics from the rest that do not perform nearly so well. The best all possessed cultural elements that fit with the developmental category more than did the rest. So, if you don't have a developmental culture, how can you change your culture? Well, it doesn't happen by declaring a new culture and hanging new motivational posters around the office. Changing a culture can be done, and it can be well worth the effort. But make no mistake, it is going to require work. The bigger the organization and the more distant the current culture is from a developmental culture, the more work it will be. But hey, Lou Gerstner did it for an organization like IBM, so it can be done. Cultural change is not an exact science, but there are 7 common themes among cultural change experts that can help. First, you must commit for the long run. Cultural change is not a one-time temporary program, but an ongoing and integral part of successful management. Second, senior executives must buy into and lead the effort. Even experts who advocate grassroots cultural change admit that it won't happen if senior management stands in opposition. A senior manager in a hierarchical culture who wants to move to a developmental culture cannot continue to behave in a command and control style. Personal change will need to lead organizational change. Third, cultural change will happen through influence, not imposition. For example, before the merger with AOL, Jerry Levin, the CEO of Time Warner, decided that a change of culture was necessary. He made a 45-minute video of himself outlining the new culture he wanted, distributed it to the employees, and nothing changed. Cultural change requires bringing other organizational influencers on board and enabling them to bring still more people on board. It requires vigilance and constant reinforcement to overcome the doubts of those who have lived in the previous culture. Fourth, make careful hiring decisions. Don't just fill empty chairs. Treat hiring like you would treat bringing someone into your family. If they don't fit the culture you want, don't hire them, no matter how skilled or experienced they may be. Fifth, fire people that don't fit the culture. Some suggest doing so slowly, giving people opportunities to change and adapt before letting them go. Some suggest doing so quickly so that they do not erode the performance of others in the organization. Both suggestions are based on doing what's best for the morale of the team. So read that team morale, read the ability of the employee in question, and then take the appropriate action. Just don't keep people around forever who do not fit. They will act as a cultural cancer. Sixth, establish symbols and rituals that build a cultural identity. Countries have their flags, sports teams have their mascots, companies have logos. These all act as unifying symbols. Rituals could be as simple as Friday morning donut meetings for a project team, or a company picnic, or awards given by team members to other team members. Such symbols and rituals are important for building a cohesive culture. Be careful though. Attempting to impose such rituals can backfire, no matter how well-meaning. Read the reaction of the group to see if what you're trying to do supports the change effort or makes a mockery of it. Finally, over-communicate. Note that effective communication is not one way. Listening is at least as important as speaking. Listen to the group, understand their reactions, their concerns, and their progress. Report out to all what you learn and where things need to go. Demonstrate that cultural change is an ongoing commitment. There are a number of resources available here in the PDMA booth relating to innovation and culture. There are both academic research articles from the Journal of Product Innovation Management and managerial articles from PDMA's Visions magazine. You also have access to a recorded webcast previously presented by PDMA, and you can, of course, feel free to stop by and chat with me here in the virtual booth. Thank you for listening to this overview of innovation culture and for stopping by the PDMA booth here at Pipeline 2014. I hope you enjoy the conference.